First item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. I do have one just clarification that under new business, the recommendation is regarding handicap parking downtown. So just want to clarify that council. Entertain a motion.
Move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Moving a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed nay. Motion passes. Next item is the consent agenda. Any motion?
We approve the consent agenda. Second.
Moving a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed nay. Motion passes. Next item is public comment. Is there anybody here that'd like to speak to something that's not on the agenda? Seeing none. Go under old business, general obligation bond search 2023-A. So that's what you gentlemen are here for.
Come on up. Okay.
Hey, good evening. Tom Calico with Baker Tilly. Stepping in for Ben tonight. I know he's been talking with you extensively about this bond issue for the electric system. So we are queued up and ready to go. Tonight's action is essentially just to authorize the official beginning of the process to get the bond sold. So it's $4,185,000 in general obligation bonds to fund improvements to the electric system. It's structured in a way, it's 20-year debt, but it's structured in a way that wraps around your existing electric system debt to provide basically a level annual debt service after the first few years. The market right now is relatively stable. Rates are up, obviously, from what they were a few years ago, but still, favorable if you look at it from a historical perspective. In association with the issue, we will go ahead and seek a rating from S&P. The other thing I should mention is, while it's a general obligation bond and ultimately payable from taxes, the city's intention, of course, is to pay it from the electric system revenue. But that electric system revenue is not formally pledged. If you were to do that, it would be a revenue bond and it would have a higher interest rate. So there's I know a lot of Kansas communities issue utility debt as general obligation specifically for that purpose, to save the money. So with that, be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Where are you seeing the rates right now?
For 20-year debt, your rating, it's going to be something with a 4. Yeah, something in there. Well, let me just see. Hang on, let me just, while I say that, we can see what we're forecasting. Yeah, right now we're forecasting a true interest cost of about 4.4. So if rates, but I did see rates went up today. So between now and sale day, and what is that, sale day of mid-May, it's probably going to fluctuate up and down a little bit.
Any other questions?
Great, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Anybody else like to speak to this agenda item? Seeing none, council discussion. All right, entertain a motion.
I move to adopt the resolution to authorize the sale of general obligation bonds.
Second.
Been moved and second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed nay. Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is the handicap parking. Susan, I'm going to kick this to you so you can kind of discuss what we'll discuss in committee.
Sure. So it was a citizen who brought this to Casey's attention. The Edward Jones Building, there is parking on the south side, and they were wanting it moved to the east side because the parking on the south side's on older income. So we looked at a map of all the handicap parking spaces that are in downtown, and there are parking spaces directly across the street from Edward Jones on the east side of the building. And looking at the ones on the south side, it's not much of an incline. And I have a son that's handicapped, we have a handicapped van, so I wouldn't have a problem with that, the incline. So we decided to just keep it as is.
What was the way we required 16, we have 22?
Yeah, we actually exceed the ADA compliance. it's for handicap parking. And looking at the map, whoever originally designated the handicap parking spaces, I thought did a really good job because they're very evenly distributed around
Anybody from the public like to speak to this agenda item? Not council discussion? Thoughts, opinions?
So the citizens' concern was that they were just dead.
They were having problems, I don't know. I think it's probably him by himself, getting his wheelchair out and getting into it. He felt like the incline was too much for him to try to get it moving right on.
Where was he trying to go once he got his chair out?
I'd imagine one of the restaurants.
So, I mean, there's access to a level, it's 2 or 1 on the east side. So the incline's the issue, there's
There's other options.
other options.
Yes,
Yeah.
there is.
Supposed to the restaurant.
Right.
Don't know if they're always full or not, but
The
I
problem
don't
with,
think there's any on that side besides across the street.
across the
Right,
street.
across the street, yeah.
No, there's one in front of the Nook, at least.
Right.
Yeah,
Well, that's
yeah,
right down there.
Well, they were talking on that side of the street.
Yeah.
He parked on the east side, obviously the east side of the street, Scott got up and got in the street and went across the sidewalk area. It's pretty level there, you can go wherever you want
Right.
to.
the problem with, I think, with taking them from the south side is then you're not gonna have any parking on that side at all. Any handicap parking.
Right,
That was my biggest issue.
right.
If we have alternatives to that problem in the vicinity, I'd be more inclined to think harder about it. Sounds like that issue's covered with 2 or 3 on 8.
So there's two on the east side of Eighth, and there's one on the west.
So there's 3 streets.
When the chief of police was there with us at the time, and she and the chief and myself, we all 3 agreed that we didn't see anything wrong with the way it was signed. Is that correct, Susan?
Yeah, leave it be until we hear maybe more feedback, and if there's something we miss, we take it up later.
Yeah. If it continues to be an issue,
Sure.
when it gets called to our attention again by somebody
Sure.
else, and, reconsider it.
All right. Council committee reports, budget, finance, Scott.
So we just reviewed the March financials, and Baker Tilly Ben had some additional reports that he was showing, so we need to bring those forward, to the council. I'm not sure if he does that on the second meeting, or is that, when does he do any of that? Is that once a quarter?
Believe it's once a month. Yeah,
Okay.
probably the second.
Second one, yeah.
Yeah,
so-
of each.
I know it's either one time in a month, so we'll see those. Everything's trended in the right direction. Was the overall, thesis of that, sales tax, et cetera. And then we had pro forma funding discussions around community center, Highway 56, and I think the substation. I don't remember all the discussions around that, but community center, obviously, the bid we got back was well outside of the original estimate and would cause significant funding issues. So I think the intent of this council is to get rebid in the fall, see what that looks like. So that funding discussion will really depend on what the bid comes back.
I think, wasn't Ben gonna bring us back new numbers based on the higher numbers and our.
Yeah, so the pro forma, so with the sales tax trending the way it is, we had very conservative numbers, over the next 20 years. So based on what we've seen over the past 2 or 3, adjust some of those assumptions to see what it looks like from a operating, fund balance perspective over the next 20 or 30 years. So that so we've authorized it at what, 2.2? 2.2
I think it was the-
That's correct. Total.
Yeah.
total.
Your total will be.
Total, right, so, if the bids don't come in that or less, then decisions will need to be made about reauthorization or reducing, what goes in there, so. I think that the pro forma really is gonna depend on where we end up. We can run it again based on the 2.2. I think the loan value we were talking about is 1.5 because another piece of news was the tax credits we were getting projected to increase from 400K to 600K, which was,
And we got 300,000 of donations.
and
So
then,
really take all of that into account.
yeah, so that's your loan value is going to be well less than the 2.2, right? Unless you use it for operations, then you bump up your loan value. So we'll have some decisions to make, I think, come fall.
So,
They can do it in the summer. Or bid in the summer.
Bid in the summer,
right?
project
Start in the
fall,
fall,
yeah.
yeah, sorry.
All this was taking place before I came on board, and I have some questions about it. And if I'm permitted, can I go back into history in this a little bit and find out how it developed and when it started and how far it's gonna go? And
sure.
is this going to be paid for by the taxpayers in time to come? And will it have to raise our mill levies to do it and so on down the line? Is there any thought to any of that? Now, I understand we got it for free, is that correct?
5 years ago, 6 years ago, I got it donated to the city. At that time, we formed a group led by community members to figure out what to put in that. They came up with a community center. They did the design work on it, and they went out and started meeting with groups. And that lasted for about a year and a half. After that point, that's when we started talking about bidding it out. Well, we first started talking about doing a sales tax referendum. That kind of stalled, so then I went out and I went and raised $300,000 from local and Kansas City businesses to help get the project started.
Why did Kansas City come from?
Because I use my connections.
Was that right?
Because I use my connections. We had Kansas City business owners that came to Baker and wanted to
They have
invest.
Discriminate when it comes to money.
They got ties to the community.
I'm sorry.
They have ties to the community, but they don't live here anymore.
And continue.
So, and then we decided to go ahead and pass it. And, after we got the engineer's estimate, and that's what we've been waiting on for the last year.
How much was the engineer's estimate?
That was based off the 2.2.
And who was the engineer?
Jay Zimmershed.
Who?
Jay Zimmershed, the guy that comes in here.
Okay, but is it ever a point in time where this building will pay its own way, or its own maintenance, or own repair, or?
That's what the sales tax is for. The quality
So there is a
price.
sales tax already for
There's a sales tax that's paying for this building right now that we're sitting in.
the library and that?
No,
This-
the library comes off.
The library
It doesn't
comes off.
sunset. It keeps going.
Okay.
So there'll be no new taxes for it, based on the donations and the tax credits. That's almost $1 million.
So when the tax credits come off of here, then they will be applied to that, is that what you're telling me?
We will do the work and then we will sell the tax credits, get the money for that, and then we can apply it to the bond, keep it in the fund to help with the operations or whatever.
How far away are we from having this thing completed?
Well, if the next bids come in good, we'll be probably looking at next summer having it completed.
Next summer, next year? Thank you.
Let's see, Highway 56, funding discussion there. I think the initial plan, you probably have all heard this, was our share was 800,000 for the work out on 56, which was significantly higher than I think we had originally talked about way back when it started. So obviously that's a significant budget issue. So I think the plan is to visit the plan that was presented to us and figure out if there are ways to de-scope things and get our share of the overall construction costs down to something that we can handle in our budget. So we had that discussion with them, whether it's sidewalks, widths and things. It looked like it had, based on the information we got from Glenn, it had pretty much everything in it you think of. So we'll have an opportunity to make some decisions to not include it and save money. That'll be the decision. So Glenn, what's the timing of that discussion with?
They want to start here in early fall, So we're gonna have to, here in the next couple of months, make a decision on that,
Okay.
item.
Are we gonna have to have sewers and water lines and such, is that removed and replaced?
No, that really isn't what's going on. It's the reconstruction of 56. They'll actually readjust where some of the turns are. They'll add a turn lane and then realign some of those streets. So that's the major cost. But we did add sidewalks and some trails off of that. So that increased the cost. But originally that estimate we're talking about here in the Bauer building, over a year, the cost has escalated. That project predates me coming. It's about 10 years old, the original estimate on that. So it's about $2 million. Now they're estimating about 2.8. So that's a pretty big jump. So we have to either pare down $800,000 or come up with $800,000. We'll probably be somewhere in the middle. I don't know. We'll have to make some hard choices though.
So we don't have to move any utilities or anything like that?
No, it's not utilities or anything like that. It's just the cost of labor and concrete. You can imagine what that's been over the past 10 years. So,
And they're not normal sidewalks.
The 10-foot, yeah.
yeah.
10-foot sidewalks?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have some 10-foot sidewalks in there that were added kind of late to the design. That was not part of the original design, but we added it on late. So we can talk about those. There are ways to cut costs on that with keeping the original scope of that project.
Why are they 10-foot? Is that what's
That was
recommended?
before anybody in this room was even involved.
Yeah, I think the intent was to match what you got on Sixth Street, because you got a big wide sidewalk that goes up Sixth Street that goes up to the schools.
Yeah.
And a lot of what we're talking about is going north to the schools, and it's getting kids across the highway and having the same type of trail that would bring them up there. So they want with the same width of the sidewalk.
I would get that if it connected to that sidewalk.
It doesn't
It's not
quite
even
do it though,
close to
right?
connecting.
No, so I think they were just kind of trying to match up the same design, but it doesn't match up to another trail or anything. They all dead end before they get to the school, so.
You may have to go, but I'm not gonna scrutinize the ambition. 'Cause
Right.
Those 10-foot sidewalks are awesome.
Oh, they're awesome.
Is
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody loves them. I mean,
Is
it-
It's excessive.
Maybe it's excessive, it's gotta go.
Right.
They're awesome.
Is there any possibility that this sidewalk will be connected with the one that we're gonna have to bring in from the east side out there?
Well, the Heritage one, we're talking about just doing a crossing. We already have a sidewalk going out east along Santa Fe. So we're just trying to, the crossing is just intended to connect that one. So more than likely, based on our entire city design, I don't see a sidewalk coming east from Heritage ever.
There was some discussion of that back, 5-6 years ago, we were talking about that, was try to do that, but no, I don't see that as a possibility at any point to do what we're talking about, so that's probably a wasted effort.
Probably would seem logical.
Yeah, well, it would be very logical to do that, and I wish it would happen tomorrow, but I don't see it really happening, so. There's too many things working against you on that side.
Okay, I'll shut up if you.
Substation we just authorized for the general obligation bonds for that. The other thing we discussed, just to talk about the 2024 budget calendar. We're going to make that decision here July timeframe. So I believe there's going to be a budget work session with the council in both May and June.
Yeah.
When you get input from the department heads, as we normally do, and probably another one to talk about decisions for the budget. Thank you for that. That's all I had. That's what I missed.
We meet next week.
Oh,
Go
yeah.
ahead.
Meeting Friday.
Oh.
Friday, second, fourth,
Do we need a meeting?
Do we?
Do we?
What's that?
Do we need a meeting this Friday? Do you need one? I don't need one.
I don't know. That's a question then. Okay,
There's
Do you have
not immediately, no.
Nothing
I don't
pressing.
think it'd be-
no pressing that would need to be
No,
Friday?
No, I think one of the things, I don't know who's gonna, I guess Public Works and Utilities gonna discuss the design of Highway 56.
Well, we'll probably send the sidewalks part of it to CDC.
Okay, see, or say, yeah,
Because
whatever
the
committee.
roadway's already designed.
Yeah, that's
KDOT.
true, okay.
So,
So that,
since
and
the
I think
sidewalks
that's where it came out of
is-
originally, yeah. So pressure's on you guys.
Well, that's all fine. I mean, we're just gonna be sitting there, throwing darts in the air with it.
Right.
No, what we'll do is we'll have, like Jason, he's the project engineer.
Okay, Jason will come down.
Great.
Right, so he'll come down.
Well, sidewalks are smaller, they're cheaper, but.
Yeah, we'll give you some maps.
Professional
and
guidance.
Yeah, that'd be great, yeah.
Cost and whatever, and we'll go through it just like any other project, and so you can see what the cost and the trade-offs are. And I think we need to do that before we come back to another, finance.
So that needs going, so the CEC agenda for Monday.
Yeah, I'll do that on Monday, yeah.
So can you get Jason down here for Monday?
I'll see what his schedule, he's usually pretty, if we give him enough advance, he can usually be here.
So our next meeting then would be the Friday following this next council meeting, which is
Yeah.
yeah. So May 5th, 7:45 a.m., second floor, City Hall, for budget.
What's your turn?
We haven't met, our next meeting's this Monday, 24th, 4 o'clock, second floor City Hall.
Public safety, Susan.
So we met on April 11th, we discussed the handicap spots, which we're going to go back over that one. And then we also discussed some parking along the curve on Signal Ridge Drive. Citizen had emailed Casey about a potential issue going along that curve. There were a lot of cars parking, and they thought it was potentially a hazardous condition. There are 28-foot wide streets, so theoretically, it sounds like it's going to be plenty of room even with cars parked on there. So Jerry and I, we actually drove down there and put our eyes on it,
What street is it?
and it's Signal Ridge Drive.
Yeah.
The curve itself, you can see all the way around it. It's not a sharp curve by any means, and 28 foot wide is pretty wide. So we'll bring our recommendation back to the next public safety committee, obviously, to discuss it. But
As you're coming in from the east side, and you're going towards the west, there is one vehicle parked down there, and there is a trailer parked in the driveway, which would probably be the one that I would be talking about, wouldn't you agree? But it's not parked in the street now, but there's an angle there that you can see right on by that vehicle and see what's in the next.
Have you guys went there in the evening?
We went there at what, 5:15?
it was-
I just used to live over in that area, and sometimes these cars can pile up right
Oh,
on that
really?
curve. There's 4 or 5 cars parked on that.
Well, there's no parking on the south side.
No, they're on the north side.
And then there's one place up there where it says no parking between signs, and there's a fire hydrant there. Now, I don't have a clue why they're there, and I don't think they're city signs to start with. They don't look like city poles.
This was on, when I was on the committee, we dealt with this 3 years ago, and that fire hydrant was an issue. I think that is supposed to be there, I think. Chief was over there, if I remember right.
It is supposed to be
I
there?
think so, if I remember right, I think probably my notes.
Well, that's all right. I mean, if y'all agree it's there, it's fine, I feel. I just thought it was odd that there'd be no parking. You don't park beside a fire hydrant to start with.
Everybody knows that. So anyways, we'll bring that back to the next meeting, and then, last, Glenn brought to our attention an upcoming increase in 911 fees. Sounds like ultimately it's gonna be a budget problem. But it's a pretty significant increase, going from what are we currently paying, 20,000 a year?
20,000 a year to just a little over 100. We had a Zoom meeting with that committee yesterday. They gladly come to one of our council meetings here in May to explain all the ins and outs of this. There's actually a group out of Wichita, I think Wichita State actually did the study for the county. So they would like to come and explain it to you whenever it's convenient for the council. So it's not good news either way.
So is there-
No, it is
Are there
not.
any outsourcing opportunities for that capability? You know, we can outsource
They need
IT.
some odd dollars if we wanted to do it ourselves.
I mean, is there like an organization that would do multiple, like they're doing, but a competitor to what Douglas County's doing? Maybe out of Kansas City or Johnson County or,
Or which part?
for not the 911 piece? I mean, it's just a dispatch piece, right?
No, I mean, it's all centralized and Douglas County, so. No, I don't believe it's like a competitive,
Right.
situation we can go to. So the choices are continue with them or do it on our own or do in a combination with the smaller cities. Either way, it's gonna cost you a lot more than $100,000 a year.
But KUPD has their own.
He said something like
The
2 million.
UPD does say, we haven't checked, I don't know if they can do selective routing in 911 there for anybody else, I don't know.
I'd assume you can. I mean, if we had our own 911 dispatch center, how would you route them?
Yeah, and having gone through that, it takes years to actually get to that point, so.
He's,
The problem is you got.
the chief
fire
said it
ambulance
cost about
there.
$2
Yeah.
million to do
Wow.
it, Casey.
No, I get that.
Yeah,
But I think what Scott's getting at is, have we checked every option? Have we talked to KUPD?
Sure,
Would they
yeah.
be willing to take us on? What does that look like?
Well, our help comes from Douglas County. If our officers are in trouble and we need help that comes from Douglas County, the best place to send them is out of Lawrence.
But they're just getting a dispatch from somebody in a building somewhere. They're not running over to them and tapping on the shoulder.
Right.
They're just getting a call to go.
right.
Proximity to me doesn't seem like in that line makes any difference at all. They're getting dispatched either with a radio or a phone to go do something. The person could be in-
If we get a 911, let's say we bring it out of Franklin County, and we call, whoever calls 911 and goes to Franklin County, for example, okay, Franklin County then is gonna take that call and they're gonna send it to Douglas County.
Correct, because Douglas County.
And Douglas County is gonna send the units. Somewhere along the line, as you well know in conversation, some of the points get lost. If this dispatcher in Franklin County is not paying real close attention because it has actually nothing to do with him or her, and he's just gonna transfer it over, what's gonna be lost in that transfer? That's the way I look at it.
I don't know enough about the system to even have the discussion, so.
And if.
Maybe that's what they'd come and talk to us about, why it's critical that.
Yeah, I think so,
I think we're at the mercy of being, we have to be with Douglas County, just because, I mean, their switchboard is,
I don't think we have to be. I don't wanna go that general. We don't have to be. The highway patrol has their own, and when I was a trooper by myself in Douglas County, my backup was coming from Douglas County, Sheriff's Office, Baldwin if I was there, Eudora. They all talk to each other.
I know, but it's, your dispatchers need to be familiar with the area and familiar with
KHB's not. KHB's
But
is
you have
fine.
your own radio system too, Casey. You could call the sheriff's department and tell them you're wrong.
So I shooting at me, I'm sure as hell ain't picking up my radio and trying to switch channels to call the Sheriff's Department.
My point is that
Shoot the man and then call and tell
You're
them.
probably right.
you're gonna have to describe.
I'm not- yeah.
The caller's gonna have to describe.
I'm not saying
what the
that you're
hell
not right. Corey, I'm not saying you're not right. I'm just saying, what, at this point, with the money we're looking at, what's the harm?
No, I'm fine with that, I don't know how feasible it is because of how dependent we are on Douglas County for that whole dispatch, that whole system. Fire and ambulance is just, they have a grid with every car on it, I mean,
Is the rationale that we've been underpaying our share this whole time?
Absolutely, yeah, most of it's been picked up by the county and by Lawrence. And so I knew when Craig Weinig sent me that contract, 7, 8 years ago, I knew that was way under. I mean, $20,000 I just signed and sent back to him and just been living on borrowed time ever since. And then boom, here comes this, I said, okay, but I didn't know it was gonna go, I thought it probably would double or something, but
Yeah.
then it go 5 times as much as a shock. But no, that's why they did the study. So
Yeah.
they there's about 4 different ways you can slice this. But all of it's gonna be, going from 20 to over $100,000. So
I
there's
think
no
we'll bring
way.
this as an agenda item when we get more information. But
Yeah,
I think at the minimum, I'm gonna want to ask for more time, more graduated time versus
We have
3 times now.
yeah, they'd be willing to do this over 2 or 3, just phase it in. So they're not asking to go from 20 to 100 in this budget. But
Yeah,
it's not gonna be 20 this year.
we have a set-in, Scott, that comes to our meetings by the name of Jim Denny. I don't know whether you know him or not. But he used to be associated with the sheriff's department in the emergency preparedness deal. And he knows quite a bit about that, and he gave us a spiel on it that day. And I think his recommendations, if I'm reading it right, and I think I am, are to pay the 100,000, forget about trying to do it the other way.
and I think
Isn't
that
that right, Susan?
we probably should go that direction, I think there should be a lot of scrutiny on why we went from 20 to 100.
That's,
That's what
Right,
we,
exactly.
So
Right.
it
That's
was
why
being
they
paid
pay
for
for it.
last year with R20, now it's being shifted, the pie's
Right.
being shifted and why?
Right,
based on
Why are-
volume, what's it based on?
Right.
right.
Does it match the other funding we get out of Douglas County for all the taxes that go that way? Is it out of proportion? So there's a lot of different ways to look at it.
Well, believe me, we've had months of those discussions.
We'd have our own
Mainly on
take on
Zoom,
it.
but, and then you're gonna hear some of that here.
Okay.
Yeah, we've made a lot of arguments and put up a fight, and believe me, Chief and I have been doing that now for probably about 6 months since we
Right.
really started this discussion. So, yeah, we're right there with you on that, and they do have answers for all of that. And it's probably better that you hear that from them rather than me trying to relay all of
Yeah.
that.
That makes sense.
So,
Do you know how much the county pays?
I knew you'd ask me, yeah, but it's it's into the millions, and I forget how much exactly. I mean, you're talking millions of dollars, from them, and then of course Lawrence is not too far behind them since their population is most of the county.
Right.
So those are the two that have the big. So they want it from their perspective more equitable as far as the smaller cities. That's what's happening. So Eudora and Baldwin are getting the big jump. That's what's happening. And well, Lawrence will actually see it.
Are they decreasing their share? Or is
Yes.
everyone's going up?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
some
they'll be decreasing that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the whole point. So,
Right.
yeah.
That is the whole point of it.
So
yeah.
So it's a budget cut for them being passed on to us.
Correct, yeah,
Right.
they'll see a
All it
reduction
is.
in there.
Yeah.
yeah, and that's my,
Equitable treatment seems to work only in this direction.
Right,
Exactly.
right.
and that's my issue is,
That's
how often does Douglas County invest any money down here?
Right.
With the tax money that's provided to them from Baldwin?
Mhm.
I mean, every building I see, every service I see that's added by Douglas County gets put in Lawrence. Doesn't get put in Baldwin.
I'd be real curious of what the study has to say.
Right, and that's what they'll share, right? So
Absolutely,
They just-
should, and I probably should get that in advance, it's
Yeah.
pretty elaborate, and, yeah, it's built on all kinds of statistical models and everything, but they'll talk in a language that even I can understand it, so, whatever. But it'll come down to dollars and cents is what
Yeah.
it does at the end of the day. But like I said, there's about 4 different methods. You can do call volume, you can do by population. We even have, assessed valuation or a combination of the 3 or something like that. And we're for the cheapest, but it's still over $100,000.
Yeah.
I think on the high end, it was like 160 if you go by call volume. So we don't want that either, So anyway, yeah, we've had a lot of interesting discussions there.
Do you know how many calls a year come from 911?
I don't know how many that, and I should by now, because I've seen the screen so many times with all those numbers, I should have memorized by now, but I don't.
Good there?
No.
Now?
No.
Oh, trust me, it'll come back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I'm not good at all.
We're at the budget for it.
You just kind of just deal with it, and
Sure.
but you don't like it now.
Right.
Well, I think I'm just willing to say we'll deal with it. I don't want more questions answered. What's being provided. Public Works and Utilities, Jerry.
About the main thing that we talked about was, there are some parts that needed to be for one of the generators down here that's gone a little bit goofy. And there was some parts available almost free, like for $500 in Holton. Is that what that was at, Holton? Nortonville? Holton,
The,
wasn't it?
the latest one they got, yeah, I believe
At
so.
Holton.
Yeah.
There was a generator just like this one, or similar to this one. And we have gotten parts off of there before to fix this generator, and Jeff made the call up there, and sure enough, the parts that they needed to fix this generator was there. He went and got them and brought them down, and come to find out they're not the right ones, they don't fit. And so he's still working on that. And then, they talked a little bit about, water and the lead and copper type thing. This new deal is gonna come out in 3 years on the chemical that sits inside PVC pipe. That somebody, I think it all happened in Minnesota over some bad water getting in line. Just in general discussion that, just general stuff, nothing really serious. But it's interesting stuff at the time. And I appreciate those guys that put that together and come to those meetings and bring information. They really do a good job. I think they do a good job. I think they're conscientious, and I think they know the business.
Strategic plan stuff.
Yeah, we met, and asked Glenn to put an RFP together to go out to survey companies to see what kind of cost and level of effort and, for doing the surveys that we would need to do the qualitative performance indicators for the strategic plan. And so Austin Wagner does a lot of RFPs for his job and provided some pretty good feedback for Glenn to go out to some companies and ask for what we'd be looking for. And the plan is to get that, bring it back to the council, talk about what the options are, what the costs are, and figure out how, if and how we want to go forward with that part of the strategic plan. So we're now waiting on RFP response out back.
Yeah, we haven't got it out yet, but we will here this week. We'll get that out and see what kind of response we get, so.
We don't have a next meeting scheduled, although we do, because we definitely need to work with Lynn and figure out kind of the first instance of what we want this thing to look like on the website, probably even before we have the performance indicators completely figured out. And again, we bring that back to the council, either in a work session or probably just an agenda item here, walk through it, get discussion, and have a plan going forward. So we'll work with Lynn and get the next meeting on the calendar. TBD.
All right. City administrator, staff comments,
Nothing further.
council comments? Just have a couple. July 4th is one of our scheduled meetings. What day do you guys want to do that? The 3rd or the 5th? I prefer the 3rd as well. I'm asking you out of kindness.
Yes, definitely.
Let's put it on
Monday.
a Monday.
Yeah. Alright. So we'll move the July 4th meeting to the July 3rd, since that July 4th lands on Tuesday. Glenn, I know you might be out, so we'll do the fairly right.
I think it'll probably be, I don't think we're leaving until after, but I need to check that.
Oh, you're not leaving until after the 4th?
No, I'm gonna be on. We'll come back after the 5th. I think on the 5th, actually.
So we'll just go July 3rd, it's fine.
So that's a Monday.
And then we do need an executive session for 10 minutes today for client attorney privilege.
Property acquisition, I think.
No,
Or is it?
I'm not sure what that, I think
Oh, okay.
property acquisition was for last meeting, right?
I thought you had another one. That didn't work out?
For this one.
Okay, either one, attorney, client, or
You're gonna have to refresh my memory then.
a meeting you were at about,
Oh,
Possible,
yes,
yeah.
we will need another one.
okay, all
So we
right.
will need two.
All right.
Sorry. Yes, you're right. Yes. Yeah,
Forgot about that.
I did.
All right.
So we're having 2 executive sessions.
We will have, yeah, we have to have.
2 different topics.
We have to come out and do it again and then go, okay.
Yes.
Well, that's fine.
What do you want to do
I'll
first?
say one of them.
Well, I'm
I'm not doing both.
use the kiss.
Use them. I don't have the attorney client.
Well, the script though, you gotta
the
put your own words where the parentheses are.
Yeah, that's the hard part.
Sorry.
Yeah, like it's,
I'm not getting any trouble if
I thought you acted. It's called ad-libbing.
yeah, you have the script ahead of time, you get to practice your lines.
How many times did you practice
You
this?
have the script.
It's on the last page.
How many years
Didn't
have you
get
served on the council?
Okay, how much time do we need?
I think for the client attorney privilege, 10 minutes.
10?
10
We'll
minutes
do that one first.
for all of us. Glenn, Dakota, and the council and myself.
I'm gonna go 7:50. Would that be good? Okay, I move that the city council recess into executive session with city attorney Dakota Loomis, city administrator Glenn Rodden, to join the council to discuss, and Mayor, and Mayor Semino, for attorney-client privilege. And we will return at 7:50.
A second.
Been moved and second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. executive session for acquisition of property. Probably need 10 minutes.
I'll go for 15 on that one.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably 15.
Computer.
It's back there, on that back table.
Mine.
I'm sorry, I can't.
I got it. I move that the city council recess into executive session with Dakota Loomis, Glenn, Ron, the mayor, and the council to join the council to discuss the acquisition of real property pursuant to NSA.
That's that guy.
Move the second on, oh, what time?
Oh, until.
7 or 8:06.
Until 8:06.
Been moved and seconded, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed nay. Motion passes. Hey, Susan. All right, we'll call the meeting back into order.
You know who he was?
I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move we adjourn.
Second.
We move to second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. We are adjourned.